by God, when are you going to know the answer? By God, when can we get Amy and Ulysses and the whole family together? Yeah. When are you going to know that? Have you given yourself a deadline? I'm serious about that. Have you given yourself a...
And the serious answer is really soon. It is really soon, before the end of this month.
That was Oprah asking what many Democrats have been wondering since Beto O'Rourke lost his Texas Senate race to Ted Cruz in November. Beto would be joining an already crowded field of Democratic candidates for president. And he wasn't the only one hinting at a run last night. Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota teased that she will make a big announcement this Sunday, making her the 5th woman in the race. Tables back. Donna, I have to start with you. How do the Democrats harness all this energy? I mean, running for president is like running 20 marathons while getting eggs thrown at your head the whole time. I've worked on presidential campaigns. It's such a healthy sign of the party that so many people want to run. But how do you keep them focused on the man they'll ultimately face?
Well, and not even just that so many people want to run, but so many people of such high caliber who are running. And I think the key is that they've got to run a primary where they don't beat each other up and damage each other, damage the eventual nominee by the time they get to the spring of 2020. And I think that's going to be very hard to do because there's not a lot policy-wise that really separates the candidates for them to distinguish themselves. And so there's where you do actually run the risk that you have a much more aggressive campaign among the candidates. And look, I want somebody who inspires me, but I want somebody who can win. And for me, that's the bottom line. And whomever that nominee is the one I'm going to be supporting.
Does Trump have an opinion about who he runs against?
He has a lot of opinions as to who he runs against. He has been telling his staff and advisors he talks to from the residents every night. I mean, he's already gauging this. He's
working on nicknames. He's not reading his PDB because he's busy coming up with nicknames.
He's looking at it. He has been impressed. He said this both publicly and privately. He was really impressed with Kamala Harris's beginning of her launch. He really wants the race with Elizabeth Warren. He thinks that the Native American ancestry thing, and we know there's been some developments of that in the last day or so, some documentation in which she's claimed that heritage. He feels like that is her Achilles heel, and he can beat her on that. What our reporting has been some of the younger, more charismatic folks. That includes Beto O'Rourke. He feels like that's a contrast he's not so sure about. Like, he thinks he can win on experience and record, but he also thinks that, there's something. Beto's like half his age almost.
He's threatened by sort of the younger, more virile.
Well, and the one thing, when The Apprentice started taking off, he went to Lorne Michaels and he asked him, is it better to be a TV star or is it better to be a movie star? And Trump said to me, what I learned from Lorne was it's better to be a TV star because every week 30 million people tune in and they watch you, and that never happens in the movies. This is a guy who's been focused on very few things in his life other than celebrity. And I think he knows when he looks at this field who has that magic dust. And as you know, that's a key factor in a presidential race. And I think he's assessing these candidates first and foremost around that sort of intangible magic. I think that's why I think Kamala Harris has that. I think he recognizes that. I think he knows that an independent candidate coming into this race blows up the Democratic vote to a certain extent, and that's why I think that's why you see him tilting, saying that would be, I hope they get in. I hope Howard Schultz gets in.
Yeah, he's the Howard Schultz biggest fan right now. He definitely thinks that would be there. Joe Biden is an interesting case as well, where I do think people around the president are nervous that Biden is strong in some of the states that Trump won last time and needs again. But he personally feels like he could take Biden in a one-on-one.
Well, and I'm looking at what those combinations can be. Is it a Biden and Klobuchar, is a Kamala Harris and Sherrod Brown? I mean, there are interesting combinations that could really work for Democrats.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.